there. Welcome back to the Yay for Business podcast. It's me, Courtney Shaw. You know that. This is episode 23. We're going to be talking about growing your email list to launch your course. Okay, so the original title of this episode was Launch Math, and I kind of like really simple podcast titles, but I knew that might not be the most enticing title. I know so many people, including myself, have some fears and phobias and trauma around math. So I don't want you to be scared today. We are going to talk about numbers. I do not consider myself a quote unquote numbers person. I want you to feel safe in this episode, whether you feel familiar with numbers, whether you avoid them at all costs. It's so important that you learn how to be comfortable with the important numbers in your business. And I know this is something that I have really avoided and had a lot of stories, and I've had to do a lot of coaching and work on myself around this. I'm so excited to share this topic with you today because, as you've heard me talk about like ad nauseum, is this concept of data over drama. And today what I'm going to do is really break down what I actually mean by data. What data? What's the data we're talking about? What are the specific numbers? In this episode number 23, we're going to be talking about goals for launching. So, when you're planning your launch, when you're preparing to launch, what is the numbers that you want to shoot for? In a couple of weeks, I think episode number 25. So we're going to have a different episode next week. Then episode number 25, we're going to talk about looking at the data of your launch after the fact. So what are those KPIs or key performance indicators that you need to look at? How do you do data over drama then? It's really important. Today's episode is going to help you kind of mentally prepare yourself for a launch. And that episode is really going to help you to not create stories and new traumas for yourself after the launch, because that's one of the main things we work on with our clients in Yay for 100K is walking them through the launch process in a way that is not going to be traumatizing. It's going to be hard. It's challenging. Launches are really vulnerable. I talk about this in next week's episode number 24 with Chelsea Wallace, my next guest, my second guest on the podcast. We're going to be talking about writing copy for your launch. Such a good interview. Amazing. A lot of giggling. So fair warning. But we'll talk a lot about mindset there too. And then of course, last week's episode was all about launch mindset. So all these episodes this month are really going to tie together. That brings me to my announcement for the day. I promise I'm going to dive into the topic here. I am hosting on March 22nd, the first live private training in a year. We're celebrating 1 year of our program, Yay for 100K, which is by far and wide the best thing I've ever created. I honestly sometimes can't believe that this is something that we created only a year ago, and we've built a whole team around it. Our whole business is based around it now. You hear me talk about it a lot. We are doing a really exciting enrollment right now to celebrate the 1 year anniversary. That private training on the 22nd is all about how to implement our 3-phase framework for how to add 100K of revenue to your business in the next 12 months based on, I talk about a lot of these like little pieces of strategy and mindset in the episodes, but that training is what ties it all together in like a global step-by-step, this is what we do first, second, third, like whole ecosystem process. So you really, really want to get your application in for Yay for 100K so that we can send you the invite for that. You do need to get your application in ASAP so that we can send you, we have time to send you that email because we do review all the applications personally. We'll also be reaching out to you, whether you prefer Facebook or Instagram, so that I can chat with you personally. Yes, me. I want to get to know you. I want to hear about your business. I want to hear about your goals. See if it's a good fit for you. If it's not, whatever that is, I love getting to know people. That's part of the depth of my marketing. We're going to talk about breadth versus depth today. I like to get people to know people on a personal one-on-one basis as much as possible. So anyway, please go to CourtneyShaw.com/apply to apply for the Yay for 100K, and we'll send you your special invite to the private training. All right. Enough about that. Enough plugging. Let's get into the juicy content here. So I want to address something very important, which is this concept of launch expectations. I have done more online launches than I could possibly count, of various sizes, of small products, of large courses, of high ticket offers. I've been behind the scenes on more launches than I can count as a sales page copywriter, as a copywriter in general, as a coach. I've seen it all. And one thing that has come up for me and for every single person, I would venture to say every single person I've ever worked with, is this idea of where do our expectations about our launch come from? Because we always go into a launch with these dreams of this vision, of this goal of what, like, we're launching our course because we believe doing that is going to give us something, right? We wouldn't do it if we thought, oh, it's just going to be hard and miserable and it's not going to work. We wouldn't do it. So everyone, I think, goes into launching a course a little bit delusional, just a little bit. And I think that little touch of madness is actually really necessary, just like starting a business in the first place, right? If I knew how hard this would be, I probably never would have done it. And people say that about parenting, right? So I think sometimes the most worthwhile things in life are so much harder than we can possibly imagine. If we did know how hard they would be, we probably wouldn't do them. I am not trying to convince you to not launch a program, but I do think that part of the dark side of that delusion is that we can set ourselves up for some serious disappointment when we have expectations about what we're going to achieve with a launch that are not based on any kind of facts. They are based on desire, okay? And we have clients, they'll tell us, because we do post-launch calls with all of our clients one-on-one. And we'll have clients say, we get like all their data, everything. Like we dive deep. And we'll ask them, to do their own post-launch review and send us the notes and everything. And we'll often see them say like, oh, like it didn't go as expected. Now, not every time, but a lot of times it didn't go as expected. And when, especially first launches, and we'll look at their numbers and we'll go, your numbers are phenomenal. Like your numbers are better than what we aim for. You're proving that the system is working. Like there is nothing here that is telling me that anything is quote unquote broken or not working in your sales funnel, in your launch, anywhere. And yet they'll say it wasn't as good as expected. So then my question becomes, well, what was expected? And follow up, where did that expectation come from? And the answer, my friends, is always desire. Well, I wanted a 20K launch. I wanted a 10K launch. I wanted a 50K launch, right? And that's great. That's what I would call the unicorn goal, is the thing we really want. It'd be so awesome if we hit that goal, okay? But this is why in a much earlier episode back in January, where I talked about anti-planning and I talked about my goal setting process, this is why we set tiers of goals. And we encourage our clients to set tiers of goals. And we set goals ranging from that unicorn goal being like the big goal, the awesome goal. It would be amazing, life-changing. That's the one we're really working towards in the long term. That's where we want to get. It'd be awesome if we did it the first time. But we also want to set what we call reality-based goals, okay? So we have this range, the bottom being the reality, what I call the reality goal. It's just purely based on data, okay? And number projections. I know it sounds fancy, but we'll break that down. Then the top goal being the unicorn goal. And then in between, I add what I call a Goldilocks goal. Is like, there's the sweet spot, right? That's just right. It's like better than sort of like the numbers, right? But also like, it's okay that I didn't hit the unicorn goal, because what I find is people don't set clear goals but they don't realize that they have this expectation of a number that is not based on any data. Okay. So we need to talk about this. We can make an educated guess as to what your launch results are going to be within a range based on a simple formula. Okay. I'm going to give you the formula. So you're going to want to write this down. If you're driving, you might want to wait and listen to this part again so you can write this down and run some of these numbers. It's some basic algebra that I want you to be comfortable with. So how do we guess how many sales you're going to make in your launch? Well, very proven formula. The number of people on your email list, okay, multiplied by 0.02, that stands for 2%, equals the number of sales you can expect. All right. Now, what we're saying there is that you can expect during any given launch 2% of the people on your email list to enroll in your program. There's a range, of course. If we had a more conservative estimate, we could do 1%. Okay. I think 2% for our clients is really safe. I don't know that we've actually had anyone do less than that. That's what we have them shoot for and base all their goal setting around. We like to be pretty conservative with that because we'd rather you overshoot your goals than undershoot your goals. But you can also kind of work that up. So you could say, okay, my reality goal is a 2% conversion. 2% of my list will enroll. Maybe my Goldilocks goal is, 3.5% and my unicorn goal is 5%. Okay. So what you can do then is you can reverse engineer. If you launch today, how many sales would you get? Might be a rude awakening. Totally okay. Absolutely adjustable. That's what we do with our clients. Come work with us. We can help you build that list. But you need to know, oh, this is why I'm not ready to launch. I haven't built that list yet. Or you might see like, oh, wow, I would actually be able to do pretty well with my launch. So you can see how you would do today. The other thing you can do, which is what we do with our clients in their 90-day, their launch their 90-day list building calculator, which is also where they put their launch goal and do the calculation there, is we help them set a goal so they have something to work towards. All right. So how do you set a goal for your launch and your list and all of that? So here's what I want you to do. I want you to ensure that you're planning a launch that's at least 90 days from now, because if you start today, you need at least 90 days to plan your launch. Okay. So make sure you're giving yourself enough time. People always want to rush it. And what I tell you is if you want to go faster, you are focused on the wrong thing because you are not going to get results trying to launch faster. It's not more money or money faster because you launch faster. Nope. We need to have that time to build up to the launch, which is why we want to make sure that you've got a strong foundation of revenue coming in from services first so that you don't launch desperately. Okay. So setting your launch goal. Take your launch revenue goal. So I love people to go for like a $10,000 goal because I just think a 5-figure launch is cool. So don't mind me. Let's say $10,000. All right. And you can pick any number, but I'm going to go at $10,000 and they're going to divide that by the price. All right. So for the simplicity of math here, I'm going to say $1,000 is the course price. If your course is less than that, totally fine. Our clients' courses are often around the $500 to $1,000 range. So we've got $10,000 divided by $1,000. All right. That equals the number of sales you need. So I need 10 sales of my $1,000 course to hit my $10,000 goal. Awesome. So now how do I figure out what size my email list needs to be from that? You're going to take that number of sales you need, 10. You're going to divide it by the conversion rate of sales. I know, okay, I'm sounding a little technical, but I promise I'm going to slow this down. Take the number of sales you need, divide it by the conversion rate. So for our cases, it's 2%. So divide it by 0.02, all right, which is 2%. And that will tell you the number of people you need on your email list in order to hit that goal. All right. So let me get my calculator here because even though I'm making this simple, of course, I'm going to do poor mental math. So 10 divided by 0.02 is 500. So in order for me to hit my launch goal with my a $10,000 goal with my $1,000 course, I'm going to need 500 people on my email list. Again, that's conservative. That's safe. That's what we want to shoot for. Okay. Because then if we did more, it's even more awesome, right? We want to help you surpass those goals, not set unreasonable expectations and then constantly be disappointed. So great. We have this list goal of 500. Now, how do we build that audience? How do we actually get to that 500? What we do with our clients, again, this is what I recommend to you. I talk about this a lot, is having that 90-day runway, that 90-day list building runway. So you have from now until 3 months from now or 12 weeks from now, 90 days from now to build your email list. So if you needed 500 people on your email list, and let's say you're starting from 0, again, simple math, I divide that by 12 because there's 12 weeks and 90 days. That means I need to add about 42 people to my email list every single week on average. Now, we have a calculator in our program for you to track this and like actually calculates this number for you. And then you can go in every week and update, okay, I added this many people to my list this week or that many people. And we don't even look at unsubscribes. We don't care. Stop looking at that. Turn off those notifications. It doesn't matter. Let people unsubscribe. Everybody has it. But essentially now we have something to work with. Now we have something tangible. What do I need to do to add about 40 people or 45 people to make it a round number to my email list every single week? All right. Now we're getting into strategy. Now we're getting into the fun part. Now, before I get into the strategy, here's what I want to say about these numbers. If you're doing this calculation and you see 500 or 1,000 people on your email list is your goal and you feel some kind of way about it, I want to remind you, the number is the data. The way you feel about the number is the drama. Okay? The number doesn't have feelings. The number is neutral. The number doesn't mean anything. But I really, really encourage you to pay very close attention to the thoughts and feelings you have about this number. What is popping into your head? What is your anxiety saying? What is your fear saying? What is your pessimism saying? Oh, I can't do that. Oh my God, how am I going to do that? I don't know what to do. That's a lot. Like a lot compared to what? A lot compared to what you've been doing in the past? Well, have you actually been focused on growing your list in the past? Or have you just kind of like had it up there, been like, subscribe to my newsletter and waiting for people to do it, right? Because I promise you, when you focus on this intentionally, your list grows. All right? So we want to make sure that we're doing this intentionally. So don't bring the past into project the future. Don't tell yourself a story that you can't do it. All right? All we have now is just a number as our goal for list building over the next 90 days and what we need to do every single week to make that happen. In order to grow your list, to hit your goal, you need two things. You need quantity and you need quality. I think in the online space, too many people are pitching tents on either side of this, right? They're polarizing this. Quality is more important than quantity. Quantity is more important than quality, right? Like, they both matter. And what you'll find, I'm going to give you some information here and then I'm going to ask you to ask yourself a question about which one you need to focus on more, is that most of us tend to focus more on one or the other. Most of us tend to focus more on quality and forget about quantity, which is, there's no shame in that. That's good. That's going to help you. And if you're working with clients right now, quality is really more important than quantity because you will get clients that way. But when it comes to launching a course, we have to start caring more about quantity because course launching requires a much higher volume in audience in order to make the same amount of money as you would make from a service. So we do need to add the quantity piece here. Now, some of you have large audiences that are not nurtured, that are not engaged, that don't remember who you are, that you haven't been like chatting with, or they've never seen your face or whatever that is, right? So that could be another situation where, you might need to start working more on quality. That doesn't mean different people. It just means turning all those numbers into quality relationships. For the rest of the episode, we're going to talk about what specifically we need to do here. All right. So you need two things, quantity and quality. In other words, you need number one, visibility, quantity, right? Getting more eyeballs on you, more people aware of you, getting in front of as many people as possible. Number one, visibility. Number two, you need relationships. You need to nurture the people who come and find you and find out about you. All right. To build that know, like, and trust factor. Visibility is about breadth. It's about more quantity. All right. I want to get more people aware that I exist. That's important. A lot of people think that's superficial. I don't need everyone to know about me. I don't care about that. They'll get on their kind of moral high horse about it. We want to get off that moral high horse and understand that if we're launching a course, we do need numbers. We do need more eyeballs. We do want that. It's not for our vanity. It's not for our ego. It's not because I need Instagram followers to make me feel worthy of living in 2021. It's because when I'm launching a course, I do need a certain volume in order to hit a sales goal. Like that's, again, data versus drama. All right. We also need the nurturing. Okay. So I'm going to talk about what kinds of content do either visibility or nurturing, but I want you to think of this as you want to balance out that you're always doing both types of content. All right. Some content is going to be better for visibility. Some content is going to be better for nurturing and building depth in relationships and that know, like, and trust factor. I'm flipping my paper over, so you might hear some shuffling here. Okay, so let's dive deeper into visibility, all right? And you're going to want on your 90-day plan as you work on growing your list to get to that number that you want it to be at to launch your course, you want to do lots of stuff around visibility. And in the beginning of the 90 days, you might want to lean heavier into visibility. Maybe it's like 70% of your content is visibility versus 30% is nurturing. And then as it gets closer to your launch, you might want to switch, right? You want to meet the people first and then nurture the relationships so that they're ready to buy. If people find out about you, 1 week before your launch, the chances of them enrolling are much lower. It happens. It's just much lower because they haven't built that relationship with you yet. So I'm going to recommend that you lean more into the visibility now and more into the nurturing later within the 90 days. Okay, so what kind of content is going to help you with visibility, numbers, volume, audience size, growth? So things like PR features. If you do any kind of media, any kind of, visibility on other people's websites or news outlets or whatever that is, these kind of things are going to get more eyeballs. So if you have opportunities like that, know that the goal of that content isn't to convert people to buyers right away. It's to get your name out there, the visibility. All right. Podcast interviews are a great example. So podcast interviews are amazing because sometimes they do both. They do the breadth and the depth because interviews can be really such a good way for people to get to know you, which is why I love doing podcast interviews. And you'll find if you do podcast interviews, a lot of your clients and customers and students will find you from those interviews. So podcast interviews are great. Go for that. You know what I should do? I should probably have a guest come on at some point here to talk about how to get on podcasts because I really think it's a valuable way to get in front of more people. When we talk about like Instagram content, there's certain types of content on Instagram that are going to be better for visibility and certain types of content that are going to be better for nurturing. And we really mix this in our content. So you can actually go through my profile at Courtney Shaw and you can kind of take your best guess as like, oh, that's more of a visibility post. Ooh, that's more of a nurturing post. Cause that's kind of how we think of it. So, things like memes, graphics that are meant to be shared, that's more like viral visibility content. A lot of Instagram reels, not all of them, but a lot of them are kind of like, ooh, this is to get in front of more people, get more eyeballs on our brand, more people aware that we exist. Okay. Doing things like summits, where your name is in front of a bunch of people. Now, summits are kind of a hit or miss. I don't do them anymore, but I think when you're starting out, it can be a great way to just kind of get in front of a bunch of different people and be scrappy about it. If you do Facebook ads, and we don't teach that to our clients because we don't believe it's what they need, but if you do Facebook ads, things that are doing Facebook ads to cold audiences, to get in front of those audiences, that's going to be visibility. That's not like, come buy my thing, you've never met me before, but it's going to be like, hey, here's a teaser of a podcast episode I just did that you might be interested in, or this quick little video I made that you might be interested in. But they don't know you. They don't trust you yet. So they're not going to invest a lot of time on your content, but getting eyeballs on the content. Pinterest traffic, that's another great example of visibility. So Pinterest traffic is going to take time to build. Pinterest is kind of cool in that it's a lot of setup, like 80% setup and then like 20% maintenance, if that. But it's really going to be a lot of eyeballs, and not all those eyeballs are going to become email list subscribers and all of that. But because you're getting a high volume of those eyeballs, that it's increasing the number of people who are getting to know you and will eventually become email list subscribers and enroll in your program. YouTube. So YouTube can also, every platform can have visibility content and like more nurturing content. So on our YouTube channel, which I don't really update anymore, but still sends a lot of traffic to us, there's content that is specifically for visibility and there's content that's specifically for nurturing. Content for visibility is going to be more like SEO specific. So like things that people are searching, it's going to be like sexier content that people want. That's not necessarily moving them towards the sale, but it's getting me in front of those people. A lot of how-to content, little tutorials, step-by-step, like people want certain things in SEO. They're going to search for those things. And so that content is really just to like appease what they're searching. Then we also have content that's a little bit more like, hey, you searched this thing about making $2,000 fast, but that's not actually what we recommend. So like, here's how to like actually build a sustainable business. But the thing is, they're searching the quick wins. They're searching the like, I just want this now, or like, this is the result I want. They're searching the things that are impatient and superficial. So with things like SEO and YouTube and this like visibility content, it often is going to be a little bit more of like catching people on that, I don't want to say clickbait, but like that hook, that thing they're looking for that they want. And then the nurture content is going to be more the thing that we know they need that they're not necessarily searching for. All right. So visibility is all about people seeing you and becoming aware of you. SEO is a great example of like a visibility strategy, right? How do I get in front of more eyeballs? It's not necessarily nurturing, but it's helping more people find you, and then you can nurture them. Once people have like found out about you, they know you exist. Now you can nurture the relationship. But the nurture content is going to be too much for people who have never met you before. So that's why we need both types of content. So let's talk about the nurture content. In your 90-day plan, you're also going to want to lean into nurture content. And like I said, more as you get closer to your launch. It's going to be more depth content versus breadth content. Nurture content is really showcasing your expertise and your brand and your unpopular opinions and just helping people to like become, I was going to say obsessed with you, but like, I'm just going to go with that. To become just like, oh my God, I love this person. I love what they stand for. Like I'm sold on who they are, what their brand is and what they're doing. Okay. So nurture content can be things like DM chats with people in your target audience. So I love chatting with people in DMs. As I mentioned earlier, when you apply for Yay for 100K and, we send you the invite to the live private training, I also want to chat with you in the DMs, whether that's on Facebook or Instagram, we let you decide, but I want to like send you voice memos and get to know you and like ask about your business and do all of that because that is some depth nurturing. That is where you bond with someone and you create that human connection with them, which is so important and necessary if you really want to like amplify your sales and be really of service to your audience. Doing things like, in your Instagram or your YouTube or whatever, wherever you're creating content is the deeper content, the more long form content, a podcast episode, a blog post. These are not things that necessarily, some of them, depending on the SEO, might go a little bit viral, but it's more the people who already know you, they already like know that you're legit. They're going to be more invested in that content, which is just going to nurture that relationship even more. So Instagram posts where you share a vulnerable story about, when you went through the thing that you're teaching your clients to do. So for me, when I've shared about like my first launch or when I had a failed launch or, struggles I had when I was a service provider, those are things that aren't necessarily going to get as many eyeballs on them, but the eyeballs that do see them are going to be for depth, not breadth. Okay. This is what people don't think about. They're so focused on getting the same amount of engagement on every single post on Instagram. And it doesn't make any sense. Like when you post sales content, you're not going to get as much engagement, but the people who are there, who are nurtured, are going to see it and are going to buy. All right. It's not that you want it to get in front of everybody. It's that you want those people that you've been nurturing for 3 months to really be ready to buy from you. And they could be Instagram lives or Facebook lives that kind of go more in depth on a piece of content. Now you could also put Facebook ads behind those videos and use them as more visibility content. Like you can do that as well. Your email newsletters are nurture content. The way that you kind of people who are already on your list, the way that you continue to nurture the relationship with them and give them content. And then I would also say like any freebies, free trainings, opt-ins, those are pieces of nurture content. In Yay for 100K, we teach 2 types of opt-ins. We teach something called the power opt-in, which is a more strategic opt-in that's really preparing people to buy from you, right? It's more nurture content. And then we also teach what we call the irresistible opt-in, which is much more like that sexy little thing they want right now that is like not, they want it, but it's like not what they need necessarily. And that's kind of what you're going to create for more visibility. So we want both types of opt-ins or free trainings or whatever it is that you're creating. Again, this nurture content is what builds a relationship and it prepares people to buy. All right. So you want to lean into the visibility content, but then you also want to lean into that nurture content and do a good balance there. So my question to you now is, which type of content, which type of marketing are you the weakest on right now? Now you might say both and that's okay. Don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself some compassion. But like, be honest. Do you have more of a tendency to be someone who is like, grow, and like the content is more the viral content and you're not necessarily showing up with your face, showing up your face. and going deep, you're kind of more staying on a surface level? Or are you kind of the person who's always trying to go deep with everybody too fast? I feel like we all tend to kind of lean a little bit too far into one or the other, even if you haven't been doing content regularly, which is the majority of people we work with, honestly, like have been struggling to do content regularly until we start working with you. But you kind of know, yeah, I'm more of a depth person. And that's me. I'm more of a nurture person, which is why I've always had like a smaller but mightier audience. And that's great. But you also want to make sure, like in our case, that we're leaning into visibility content. So doing more podcast interviews, making sure we're doing more like viral content on Instagram. Those are the kind of things we're focused on right now. So just as a little bit of an example. So if you need to do visibility, it's because, if you focus more on visibility right now, a symptom of that is that you have a larger audience, but they're not really engaged. Okay. So you have a bunch of people, but you don't talk to them. You don't nurture them. They don't know who you are, etc. All right. So you're going to need to lean more into the nurture content. If you are focused on the nurture content too much, you probably have a smaller audience that's like obsessed with you and loves you. And you feel like you know all of them. And you might have some fears around growing because you feel like you're going to lose some of that connection with people, which is a very normal fear. Just like if you focus more on the visibility and not the nurturing, you might have some fears around like being vulnerable and showing up. And what if people don't like me, or kind of hiding behind the visibility content? That's all okay. Those are things that we want to work on. That's where the coaching comes in. But at least, strategy wise, that's what you need to work on. So your number one priority, if you want to launch your program, your course in the next several months, right? If this summer, this fall, whenever you're listening to this, if you want to launch a program in the next 3 to 6 months, your number one focus right now has got to be audience growth. Okay. Lean into the visibility content unless you know that the nurture content is more important for you. And I just want to leave you with this. Those who are focused, and I'm not saying focused as in like they're constantly focused, but like they don't let themselves get distracted by like, they'll have shiny objects and distractions, but they're like, nope, this is what I'm doing. I'm focused on audience growth. Those that are focused and show up imperfectly see success. Those who are constantly changing their minds about what they're doing, changing their minds about what they're focused on, are inconsistent and become perfectionists and wait for everything to be ready and everything before they put things out there. They're constantly waiting, constantly postponing launches, constantly waiting for it to be perfect and right and everything. It's all about showing up imperfectly for your audience, to build your audience, and treating it like right now you already have the size of audience that you want, even if it's 0 people right now. I want you to show up as if you have an audience of 1,000, and I want you to treat whatever people are in your audience. It always starts with like your mom and your dog. I swear to God. You have to show up as if you are Oprah Winfrey. Okay. So look, I started there too with a blog with 3 subscribers, and here we are today. So everyone has started where you are. Instead of complaining about it, you just need to get out there and start posting that content and prepare for your launch. It can happen so much faster than you realize, but you do need to take the actions and you do need to do the work. All right. So that's what I have for you today. I want to remind you that about applying for to get your invite to our private training on how to add 100K of revenue to your business over the next 12 months. I'm going to go over my full 3-phase framework. If you've already applied before, we're going to send you a link to the live training as well so that you can join me live. And also we've updated things and the program is constantly evolving. We're constantly adding new things, tweaking, etc. So you'll want to get the most updated information. It does require that you apply for a Yay for 100K first. So go over to CourtneyShaw.com/apply. Send in your application. It takes 5 minutes, 7 minutes max. The most important thing on the application, guys, is give us information about where you're at right now and where you want to be. So the more you can tell us about just like, okay, what is your current business model, or what are your services? Where's your revenue coming from? What are your sticking points? What are you frustrated around? What are your obstacles? And then if you can kind of give us like revenue-wise where you're at, and not because you need a certain revenue, but just because it helps us to kind of see where you're at in terms of how realistic your goal is and what we think would be the best strategy for you to get there. That's the most important part. But really, there's just 2 questions on that application, and we review each one individually. So again, depth. We are all about that high touch experience with you. And if you have any questions at all, you can send me a DM at Courtney Shaw on Instagram. I'm in there all the time. I love to send you some voice memos and answer your questions. And I can't wait to see your application come through. Yay! Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you love today's content and are ready to finally start making a full-time income from your business this year, make sure to get on the wait list for my program, Yay for Clients, over at yayforclients.com, and you'll be notified the next time enrollment is open. Or if you're already booked with clients and you want to learn how you can turn your signature service into a signature program and add 100K of revenue to your bottom line, come apply to my group coaching program, Yay for 100K, over at CourtneyShaw.com/apply. Thanks again and have an awesome day.